Yeah, we good.
Cool. Who's starting it off today?
Uh, you can start. That's
Jesus.
fine.
Okay. Back at it. Your camera looks like E.T. and Johnny Five had a baby. I don't know if you know who either of those is.
I know ET.
You know E.T.?
Yeah.
So Johnny Five is a robot that like basically thought it was alive. It's like kind of like the first little AI, but he on like little tracks like a tank, and it's like three movies. They call like I think Short Circuit or something like that.
Sure.
And it's like about him like coming out the lab. He's kind of like escaping. He thinks he's alive. He's going around getting these little adventures, and they're
Okay.
trying to chase him down and like shut him down and reprogram him, or whatever, some shit like that.
That kind of sound like ET and Wally.
Right, right.
So someone just separated.
Wally was biting. Wally was biting, most definitely. But
Yo,
what's
Wally was
up,
pretty.
everybody? Wally was dope.
Yeah, it's pretty fire. I ain't gonna. Yo, you started running.
Yeah. We out here. You
They
know what I'm
already
saying? We
here.
out here. We gonna do it like that. What's up, everybody? It's the People's Realtor, Realty Ryan, and my boy.
Oh yeah, Romano the realtor. You know, you got to do your own intros out here.
Yeah, and this is the Prefect Perspective, baby. I done said it wrong a few times. I was watching some of the videos, and I done been wilding a couple times. So, but we out here now. We got mad subscribers, so we come correct,
Yeah, damn straight.
right?
Yeah, and quick reminder: we just can't do nothing too crazy. We can't say nothing crazy within the first 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes.
YouTube guidelines. I thought it was 10.
Yeah, no, I don't know, bro. They actually.
Oh, 5,
flag-
you can't say nothing. 10, you can't. You can start like lighting up and whatnot.
Yeah, you
and
can get a
binge.
little crazy.
Okay,
Because they
10
flagged the
minutes
one
in.
with Fab because he was. I can't run. I can't even. I can't like advertise that one.
The one with me and him.
Yeah, they flagged that.
Why?
I think because of his CO stories.
What?
He might have gotten into them stories a little too quick.
What story did he talk about?
I don't know. They were like violence,
Bruh.
warning, violence.
That's crazy. I don't think there's
Yeah.
none of that in there. Maybe that's why he said he didn't want to talk about it. That
Ah.
makes sense.
Yeah, maybe it was YouTube giving us a sign through him.
Yeah. Fab know YouTube guidelines because he all about that social media, so he probably know YouTube guidelines too. But yeah, we here today. What's this, like episode 10?
Nah.
Okay, 11?
We just throwing them out at this point.
All right, forget it. Y'all figure it out. You see on the title. But we here again. Some stuff that's been on my mind.
Right.
You know, just pondering over the past few years and my whole time in the industry, my switch out to, my little 9 to 5 or 7 to 3 that I work during the day. And it's like, what are we doing this for? What are we grinding for? I spent a lot of time working really hard,
Yeah.
Chasing people in different aspects of real estate, the regular job.
Because you were saying you started a whole new like position and stuff.
Right, I became an
recently.
inspector, so like I'm constantly training into new things. At the same time, I'm taking on big projects
Yeah.
and my other endeavors, and I'm forcing myself to have to like do two things that are seriously challenging.
Oh.
Not at the same time, but back to back.
Still,
One
yeah.
in front of the other. From
Yeah.
the property, just transitioning from there to a new position from that.
And you're saying from flipping your investment property
Right.
to
I
now-
actually took a position then,
Oh.
took a promotion,
Okay.
and had to learn a completely different something that was equally as difficult as what I'm doing now
Okay.
in the middle of doing that house.
Sheesh.
And then now, a year almost later from selling the property, I've taken another promotion at the job while I'm trying to make sure I have my 2025 real estate career tidy, and showing the maturity, as an agent, getting the fruits that you should get.
Right.
But at the same time, I have to manage these other things. And then, I do the electronics. I dibble and dabble in that as well.
That's true.
So, between all of that, it's difficult to do that. But why do we do it? Me, I'm an old man. As we all know, I'm one of the OGs of prefect, and you're one of the younger people of
Nah,
the.
I'm pretty old now.
Well, you're getting there, but out of all of us, you're in the younger realm of things. I don't know about you and Alex who's winning, but either way, I have a kid. You are,
Kidless.
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 So in about 10 years younger. So
Yeah.
so obviously our goals for why we grind are different.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do it for, Romano? What do you?
I do it for the money. Nah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there like, yeah,
Put your hands up.
yeah, you feel me? Like, hell yeah, Romano, that's what we do it for. The people who clocking in 9 to 5 to most of those jobs, they're definitely saying they doing it for the
They're
money,
doing it for the money. I
right?
mean, granted, you can't even breathe, I feel like, in the US right now without paying a fee.
Right.
So, not to be alarmist or anything, because, yeah, you can breathe. It's free. Free air.
Right now.
But you're going to pay a tax of some sort.
Yes, sir.
So,
Depends
certainly
on where you're breathing it.
the money is a driving factor, but I feel like I'm constantly trying to discover the reason why I'm grinding because there's so many different parts of happiness, as we put it in quotes, right?
Right.
That you sometimes don't know you got it, and sometimes you'll lose it just as easy, right? Like sometimes you'll get to a point in your life where you were truly chilling, you were vibing. Yeah, you might have had bills coming down like motherfucking waterfall.
Right.
Like you was under pressure, but that might honestly be one of the best times in your life
Right.
because shit can change like that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like real crazy, yo. And it's good that like we can talk about the reason why we're doing what we're doing. I think a lot of people don't even get the chance to really think about it.
And
Like
that's important.
even one of my old my high school counselor actually hit me up because she has been honestly one of my supporters, right? But she's seen my ads and my stuff that's going on Facebook,
That's lit.
Instagram, all that. She likes all the stuff and great supporter.
Right.
Somebody I knew from high school. And she hit me up and was like, yo, I'm proud of you, yo. I remember when we were sitting down talking about your future and you were like, oh, you want to do real estate?
That's tough.
And I was like, oh, I don't remember that.
Right. That was
I
cap.
remember saying that.
She
Yo.
was capping.
Yeah, I was probably running around saying, "Yo, I want to make $5 million
Right.
as soon as I graduate high school.
Real talk.
I'm gonna do it in real estate. I'm gonna start my own business." And granted, I told her like, "Yo, I really appreciate those conversations because I don't think there's a lot of kids that had those conversations outside of their family. In my family, it was a single mother, like raising 3 kids. Like she ain't had the time to sit down and talk about no dreams,
Right.
Because she was out there working, so we had a
Grinding.
roof over our heads, right?
Right.
So dream making, I was luckily able to get that kind of energy, that motivation from those people I ran into at school. During school hours, the advisors, the teachers, the one or two teachers that cared enough to say something.
Right.
To like, yo, what do you want to do? Like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? Like, they asked my opinions and they helped me form these thoughts that eventually drove my motivations, right? Not to say like my mom didn't influence me like she did.
Right,
Her
right.
hard work is the core of all that. Because if you don't got a certain foundation, sometimes you don't make shit. You know,
Right,
you
the
don't
discipline.
You don't know. Yo, you can't build a house on flimsy foundation. We all know
Right.
how that ends, right? That's why we got a concrete disclosure in real estate, and you gotta check no for concrete issues because if you got concrete issues,
It's a problem.
your house ain't selling that easy.
Yeah, nah,
It
it's
ain't
a
selling that easy. I mean, we actually had a crumbling foundation issue in the state because one
Yeah,
of
in
our
Connecticut.
quarries, one of our quarries had like some messed up stone and something like that, and it screwed up a lot of properties, especially like condos. So, if you're buying condos in Connecticut right now, side note, watch out. Some of those will have hard financing to acquire, but it's not impossible to buy them. All right,
Right.
buy them cheap before they fix it.
That's real. And it's brand new and not
Right.
a cost.
But sidetracked it. But yeah, a foundation is important. And I just, in thinking about what you're saying, like, there's a lot that goes into where I want to go because even where I'm coming from, I had to figure that out. And now I'm here, and it's a far different from where I was down here. and now I'm trying to go even further, and I don't know what that looked like because it wasn't before me.
Right, that's real.
Right.
That's a lot of time. That's an issue. Like
Mm-hmm.
you start going up, and then you've had no role models or people to kind of guide you in that direction to lead you in the first place. So everything that you're experiencing at one point begins to just be brand new. And then when you're trying to step to that next plateau or top of the mountain, you know, you can't even fathom it because how do you know what it's looked like? It's never been put in front of you. That's why they say be around people who are smarter, richer, stuff like that, so that you can see what it looks like through them and then mimic that.
And sometimes not even mimic. It's just like you can see what it looks like for them to be successful, to them to have had whatever they have, and not to generate envy or like even use
Right.
that as a motivation. But it's like to think, yo, it doesn't matter what your dream is. You put the effort behind it, you can achieve that level. There's
Right.
that level, right? You want to sell makeup, you want to sell hair products, you want to sell perfume, anything cosmetics, you want to do this, you want to do that. Like whatever your dream is, there is a final end goal. You just got to be real, real smart and careful about how you're going about that journey. And that's the real pitfall in our capitalist society.
Right, but that's where like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You know, one of my main things about today, even though we speak about it time and time again,
Right.
that I wanted to speak on was converging from say a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 3 or a 3 to 12 or a 12
3 to
to 7,
12.
whatever your shift is, converting from that to your own something. And that doesn't have to be something where you just throw it all away and jump off the cliff. These, if you're planning properly, should be something where you're building something on the side of doing what already is maintaining you. You
Right.
know,
Right.
since I was young, one thing I said, like, or I noticed was that I felt like I was a slave to my things.
Shit. What
You
you
know,
mean?
like, meaning that, like, in my early 20s, I'm like financing cars, which when I was younger, I was like, I'll just buy a car outright for
Right.
insurance purposes, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got older and I started financing, you know, you got your car, you got your car insurance, you got to pay for gas,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
a cell phone, you
Right.
know, you might be paying some rent or you might even step into a mortgage at one point. It's like,
Shit.
even if you don't have the best job, but you start grabbing certain things that require a financial responsibility,
Right.
now you can't just back off. Now you can't just quit and stop working
Can't walk
because
away.
you have these things that you have to take care of. So that goes from every part of the scale to being a young person starting there all the way up to being an OG and, you know, having a home, children, all of that you have to take care of.
Right.
But it starts there, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be a slave to my things. But a lot of times we work and then we spend. And so what we have left is not enough.
Right.
Or we're say, even if there is something left, where it's not enough to where you may feel you can invest in yourself. Maybe you don't have the time because you feel like you're working too much with something else.
Right.
But throughout all those type of situations, because I kind of like have experienced it, you know, my main thing was find a way.
Right. I mean, you had to.
Right, and that's why now I made that transition the same way many have made from like real estate and not just doing a 9 to 5 type work, right? So, but in the future, I'd like to just be clear away from that. Worst case scenario, 55, I'm out of there, right?
Right.
So if by chance you want to get out of doing that, or so many people have to work until they're like 70 years old, something like that, invest in a business, figure out, like you said, something that you're good at, something that you have an understanding of,
Yeah.
and apply yourself and then invest in yourself instead of the foolery.
Yeah. Instead of the foolery.
I'm just saying. You know, we
Yeah.
all like toys. We all like to have fun, and we all, with social media and stuff like that, it makes it difficult because you see so many other people out there doing so many things. People get envious.
Right.
So rather than worry about that, focus on yourself, being the best you, because everyone's always gonna show you the good. You don't show people your bad days, do you?
Me?
Right. Like you put out a lot of content. You don't really go live or record a video and just be like, man, today is horrible. Like what I'm saying is
Terrible.
no
Yeah,
one
yeah.
tells you like when it's bad, except for people who are just like really hurting and they reaching out for help.
Right.
But people who are living their normal life and supposedly living their best life, that's all they're ever gonna show you.
I mean, that's true. It's just really how some should be popping off. I mean, excuse my language, but like you know, like the celebrities that disappear. You know
Right.
those. You know the same old story. Celebrity pops back up, dead. What happened? Oh well, they had millions. Then this happened, and then they had nothing, and then boom, they died.
I ain't trying to go out like that.
Any of them. You could name any of the situations that's happened in the last 10 years because it's really been popping up often. People just wash out, and they might be a millionaire, or they might be a random guy on the street.
Right.
You know, it just happens.
Well, you got to be mindful and you got to have discipline, like we said in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So, but back to the generational wealth.
Right. Let's skip all the sad stuff.
Yeah.
And let's get into the tomfoolery.
One of the biggest things that encouraged me to step into entrepreneurship, aside from just having an entrepreneurial spirit,
Aside from the money, yeah.
right? Or not even like, even as a young person, I want to be a businessman. I knew I want to like work for someone.
Yeah.
That's what's funny. When we were kids, we always say we want to do some job that's like really cool and probably like our own thing. But when we get older,
type, yeah.
or a fireman or something, you still got a boss, but you don't think about it. You got a report, you got a supervisor and all of that. But we always think of it like we about to do what we do.
Yeah.
But when we get old, 9 out of 10, we working for somebody, we punching in, need some sick time.
You got to clock in, yeah.
Yeah, all that BS.
You got a ball and chains, though.
There you go.
But it's simple.
So there was a video by a celebrity who is pretty controversial.
Here we go.
Yeah. One of the top entrepreneurs himself, music mogul, if you will, Mr. Dame Dash. I don't mean to name drop or nothing like that, but he put out an interview on the radio show, The Breakfast Club, back in the day, years and years ago.
Yeah.
And was talking about like being a business owner. The ups and downs of that, but just saying how it's important to encourage for your family, for your children, for generational wealth purposes, to have your own.
Have your own, yeah.
Right?
The importance of that.
Right.
It's pretty important.
Right. So I figure I'd throw a little clip on of the video just to jog everybody's memory. Romano is a young boy, so he's never even seen this video before. Yeah. But I think this had a lot to do with what inspired me. I'm going to just play a little clip. We're not going to go crazy. YouTube guidelines. So we're going to have some respect.
Props? I do get my props. I'm not a mogul. I'm a tycoon. I sell oil. Don't disrespect me and say I do everything everybody else does. And I put up my own money. All these so-called moguls y'all talking about, you name one of them that put their own dough.
Yo, homie in the back.
Boss, you're only the boss if you put up your own money. If you don't put up your own money, I don't care how much somebody gives you, you're nothing but a supervisor.
He's trying not to pick his nose right there.
So how much money can you get paid to not... there's no money in this world for someone to pay me so they could call me, so I can call them a boss. That's like calling somebody daddy. How can a man call another man, yo, that's my boss? You don't do that.
I mean, everybody at some point has to
hot take.
Supervisor, manager.
Oh, okay. Put it like this.
Because you're somebody's boss.
No, I'm not somebody's boss. When I was in the street...
I'm sure somebody called him boss.
They gave you an opportunity.
Okay.
They gave you some work.
At some point, yeah.
You go make it, and then you bring it back. You can go buy your own work and do whatever you want. It's called consignment.
So why this can't be all work? This corporate America, we could be using
You don't
this.
own it.
I'm telling you. No,
I'm telling you why. I'm telling you why. Question. Let me ask you a question.
Listen.
Can you give it to your son?
Can I give what to my son?
Whatever you
Shares
want
of this company? I absolutely positively can.
How?
How? Because I own shares of this company.
You bought them?
Yes.
What I'm saying is, can your son eat? Is this yours to give the whole company
This
to
whole
your?
company is
I'm
not
asking.
my son's. No.
Exactly.
It's not mine. But I own shares of this
Stop.
company.
Listen. That's not my question. If your son needs a job here, can you give it to him? No.
No.
If your son needs to get some money out the bank from here, some cash flow, can you get it?
No.
All right, you don't own this.
But I can take the,
Stop,
I
I'm
can
just
take the
telling
money
you.
from here to invest in
No,
myself.
it's not yours. I'm
Pretty
not gonna
straightforward,
fight for
yeah.
something I
You
don't
know what I'm
own.
saying?
Men
If
don't
the- if
do
the
that.
numbers
I don't
ain't in
fight
your
for other-
account,
'cause I
ain't
fight
yours.
for me. I'm not a doula. I'm not gonna
It's
build
not even
somebody
about the
else's company
numbers.
and
It's the
take
point
shares
that,
of my
like,
son.
when you, the
No,
person,
no, listen,
are
listen,
said and
listen,
done, when I don't want to be in
listen,
manufacturing anymore, where's the money for my daughter to continue and move forward? You know, she's
Right.
not gonna get anything from this company that I didn't put 20 plus years into when I decide to leave,
Yeah.
because it's not mine to beneficiary her anything than maybe a retirement if I die ahead of time.
Right.
You know, but if you've built a business of your own and somehow made it to where you're financially successful, you could trust that off or will that off to your children and
Yeah, even
and pass it on.
Even if you have to sell it.
Exactly.
Even if you gotta sell it, they'll get the
Then
cash
they
from
get the
that.
equity, exactly, and they move. But hopefully they learn something, and it's something that, you know, whatever the industry may be. Just like me talking about bringing my daughter into real estate, like Prefect Realty is not mine, but I am an independent contractor under the brokerage. So knowing
Right.
that, unlike what they're offering there, I know I can get her a job because my broker is someone I know personally. The person who runs this is my personal friend. So even though I may not own Prefect Realty, I'm proud to wear the name, 'cause I ain't trying to get Ryan Realty, not as a, you know, a brokerage,
Yeah.
you know, Realty Ryan all day. But past that, I'm happy as a salesman. You know, I'm happy to help people.
Yeah.
And if I get an office, it'd be like a satellite, something to this to help him. But now if my daughter did want to really go hard in real estate, then I
Yeah.
would show her how to gain a brokerage along with, you know, promoting her onto her clients. But then through something like that in an LLC,
Yeah.
I could show her how to have her own and set her up for a good future. Like, not knocking, because at my job that I have now is a lot of referrals. There's people there who bring their children, who bring their spouse, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So every job is not the same. You know, some companies do have the option. You know, there's a damn big, huge celebrity radio station. So obviously they don't have the option to just bring their kids in. But my other thing is, like, if I were to have to bring my daughter to my job, aside from an internship,
Right.
and now she's gonna do the same thing I've been doing all these years, as a parent, I would not feel very good. And once again, no offense, I know people do things like this, but for me as an entrepreneur, it's not my lane.
Right.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of examples, right? Like, and I guess I want to say this first. It's interesting because I've seen something addressing something similar to what you're saying. Because I know that it's either the U.S. Army or the Army itself,
Right.
the military itself, has been offering veterans like transmittable health benefits, something like that. So, like, if you die or you come back from war, blah blah blah, you die, right? Terrible.
Right.
I'm joking about it. So you come back from war, you're dead, right? You had these health problems, blah blah. You had the coverage. You could pass that on to the next person. That's
Like,
from my
pass
understanding.
your health coverage to your children.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
but I understand that perk because of the continuous failures for helping retired veterans.
Yeah.
So I understand them trying to, like, hammer that in, like, add that value to being a veteran aside from the respect you obviously get for defending the country.
Right.
So if your kid decided to get up and go join the military, yeah, it's most likely going to be because of the fact that they looked out for you so hard that they got benefits from your service. And then there's the other side of what you're saying, where it's like, yo, you're working this job, all you got to do is dedicate more. And I think policing is another one for that, because it's like, although the benefits aren't so commutable that it pass on to your kids, there are people who have families and families and families and families, and then they get married, and then those families have officers in it, right? Sergeants, lieutenants,
Yeah.
right? They have history in a station, right? But it doesn't really mean that the family profited more because of it. It was just a commutable profession that
Right.
one kid was born and they're like, oh, my dad's a cop, so I want to be a cop.
Right. They just kind of repeat the program.
Right. And then I think that the outrage, especially on this hot take, is that there's people who take pride in that commutability of a role. But then there's the other side of it where, you're at a desk, you're an accountant, you're crunching numbers 24/7.
Right.
What the bumble? What the bumble?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
for real.
you want your kids to be doing that same shit?
Yeah,
Like, you
real
know what I
talk.
mean? Like, your brain is burning and you feel that shit every day. You come home, you're like, I am so tired.
Right.
Is that what you want for your kids? No, it ain't. And a lot of times, people who have those roles that they're tired of and they became wildly successful in, oftentimes leave their assets in other forms, namely real estate, for their kids to take a different path.
There it goes again.
You know what I mean? And
All comes back to that.
Jeff Bezos might be capping, right? Wait, is it Jeff or is it Warren Buffett? I think it's Warren, right? I read an article at some point that said Warren raised his family relatively middle class, and then he, at some point in the last couple of years, bought his daughter some multi-million-dollar pony ranch, equestrian ranch.
Okay.
Let me be fancy about it, right?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, but cool.
Being raised middle class up until that point, you had the vibe that your parents had mad money, or you see your dad's name everywhere. But the value comes in where now you got a whole $16 million, X million dollar
That's crazy.
equestrian ranch in your name. You're directly now benefiting from the fact that your dad is a multi-billionaire,
Right.
right? And it would have always been the case because he was who he is. Even if you didn't see a dime of it because you're raised middle class, it was an eventuality. That's an
That
automatic.
way he gonna die and you gonna get that money?
You gonna die and you gonna get that money. You gonna get that money. Like, as long as you ain't gonna have a crazy falling out, and even if you did, you still profit at some point. Because being born with that name,
It come off.
right? Being born with that name already. So it's like there's a legacy pass through as well. And a
Right.
lot of what we're talking about is like you build that legacy, you pass it along. What kind of legacy are you leaving for your kid to benefit from?
Right.
Not just the dollars and the cents. Well, what's your name
Oh,
worth?
he getting deep with it.
Yeah, what's your name
What's
worth?
your name worth?
Yeah, what's your name worth? Yo, tell me.
Put some respect on it.
Yo. Do you go around telling people you got PhD at the end, or do you go around telling people that I own and operate?
Yo, either way I'm lit. Either way I'm lit. Because sometimes you get too many of them prefixes and people start acting crazy. So I don't want to get my head too big. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to be in the middle lane. I hit the fast lane here and there, but I ain't just going to stick my nose up at folk.
Right? Yo,
But-
in the words of Dame Dash, right? Is your son guaranteed, or are you certified? Because there's a difference.
Real talk.
Yeah.
See, it was a good little interview, right? And you only caught a little snippet. Yeah, don't drop the. You know these shit's expensive. It's yours. So chill, relax. But I'm glad it was inspirational like that, and that's why I wanted to have this talk, just to take the time out to make sure people understand. You don't have to drop what you're doing and think that you just throw your 9 to 5 away and jump into, entrepreneurship. But if you really don't like what you're doing, rather than complaining about it, you should be taking action.
Right.
Kind of going on a rant like Colleen, but it's true. Take action. If you're not happy, if you don't like the job you're at, take action. Or maybe switch roles in it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like my job for a long time. Now I move up a little
You
bit. And
double role change.
It got a little more comfortable. You know what I'm saying? I could do a few more years now. I might be able to make it to 55 up in that piece.
Jeez.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But, that's the difference. Like, yeah, do something that's going to take care of you and your family. Like I said, unfortunately, you have these responsibilities that you cannot avoid. Mm-hmm. But if you can put yourself financially in a situation where you can pose a little extra, which is one of the reasons why I'm so thankful for my job, because everything I do now would not be able to do it if I didn't have that job giving me a decent income.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So shout out to them.
All right.
But we ain't gonna name drop.
So I feel like it's been great talking about this, and we have a ton more coming up.
Right.
I wish and I hope that everyone watching had, you caught our last seminar on scams and frauds, fraud and scams, and how to not get yourself in trouble. And if you do, there's always a way back.
Right.
So please look out for more of those seminars. It was fully virtual, so you could watch from anywhere in the world. We always want to provide that level of accessibility, and we'll continue to do live seminars as often as possible. So please stay tuned for that. We'll probably throw it out in our next couple videos if we have something planned. Follow us, follow the channel. It's always great talking to you.
Yes, sir.
Right? So, deuces.
All right, everybody.